Hey, it's Jacqueline, and I'm back to talk about the things you want to avoid on your driving test. Right now, for the next few minutes, I just want to explore failing to yield to pedestrians. In California, pedestrians have the right of way no matter what, no matter where they cross into the road from, whether it's at an intersection that's well marked or whether it's between cars from sidewalk to sidewalk. We're going to drive down a busy street and we're going to practice yielding to pedestrians. You'll see people will likely pop out from all directions. So while we're driving down the street, I want you to think about yourself like the catcher on a softball field or the goalie on a soccer field, and you are scanning right to left and left to right all the way down the road. And you're looking at the corners and around cars, and you're looking for any movement. You're also tracking people's feet to see if they look like they're going to turn and step in front of you. And you're trying to differentiate between the person that's waiting to cross the street and the person that's waiting for an Uber. And I know that it's a lot to keep track of, but you're going to train your eyes to notice the difference. So let's drive for the next few minutes practicing yielding to pedestrians so we can avoid one of the most common automatic fails. First, I'm going to yield to this bicyclist before I enter into my road. Yielding to pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars is the most important thing that we do while we're driving down the road, knowing when to stop and when to go. And failure to yield is that tough, critical error that actually I think it's okay to automatically fail if you forget to yield to somebody, because you don't have a lot of options. You can't bump into anything, so you have to yield. So all of the streets in our state that have these busy shopping stores and restaurants on both sides, they are 25 miles an hour, just like a residential area. And the reason they're 25 miles an hour is that people park and walk from shop to shop. Maybe they stop and get a burrito, then they walk across the street to get an ice cream. And so the slower we're going, the easier it is for us to scan and be able to avoid. I always talk about stopping behind a vehicle, leaving adequate space, which means you have to be able to see the ground behind the back two tires. And I just want to acknowledge that when I crossed the intersection, I got closer to the car ahead of me than I usually would like. And that's because traffic stopped and I wanted to make sure I got out of the crosswalk. So I just scooted up as close as I could to clear the space behind me. I spotted somebody in the corner. I had a runner from the right. And by noticing and stopping, I was able to yield to pedestrians. And it is bright, so I'm going to use my visor to just sort of rest my eyes from the glare. I hope you get yourself a good pair of driving glasses, which is something that I have forgotten. We've got movement on the right, so the car ahead of us stopped to yield to pedestrians. So far, we've had to yield to 2 pedestrians just in these few minutes. So we really are practicing how to yield properly and avoid that common automatic fail. If you want to review the other 6 common automatic fails, check out our video, the 7 most common automatic fails. And I'm scanning right and left. I see someone on the left side. They look like they're pausing and waiting. I'm going to keep going, and they're going to cross behind me. And I chose to keep going there because I had through traffic, and by stopping, there was a car behind me that was going kind of fast, and that would have been really sudden. So in that case, it was okay for me to keep going because I could tell they were pausing and waiting for me to pass. But if they had been in motion, I would have had to stop quickly, and so would the car behind me. And we're scanning at every corner. We see the yellow jacket, dad and daughter, it looks like, crossing in the middle of the road. Another dad and daughter crossing in the sidewalk crossing that's designated. So lots of yielding to pedestrians. And my slower speed and my really intentional scanning is what's helping me to make sure I notice everybody. And the more you practice from the safety of your own home or sitting in your car and watching these videos and just imagining the process, the more comfortable I hope you'll feel when you're the one out on the road, because you'll have a sense of having seen somebody else yield to cars reversing from a parking spot, and then you'll be like, yeah, I can do that too. I know that by being aware, you will be able to yield. And yielding is not just so that you can pass your test. Yielding is so that you can pass life. Every day, leaving home and coming back home safely. That's how you win. I saw some movement in the corner, so I'm coming to a stop, and out pops the pedestrian. And I'm so glad that I noticed early, because then I didn't have to stop in the middle of the intersection. I would stop wherever I had to avoid collision, but it looks better when you're on the other side of the intersection and on your driving test, you want to avoid stopping in the intersection. Here I yielded the entire intersection. I kept clear behind my limit line because I couldn't get on the other side. And by doing that, I got to let 3 more people cross safely in front of me. I'm glad we picked this street, and I'm glad we had so many examples of pedestrians crossing from the intersections and also from the middle of the road. I'm glad we saw at least one car that we had to yield to. And I hope that this practice helps remind you that you are someone that is going to be able to yield to cars when you become the driver. And more than yielding to cars, what I meant to say is someone that will yield to pedestrians, like I just did on that right turn. One more pedestrian crossing as I was waiting to make my right turn, and I just pause, I yield, I let them get across, and then I go. I wasn't sure if that blue car was going to pop out, so I tapped my brake just a bit. But when I saw them pause, I felt safe to continue. If they would have popped out, I would have yielded. Even though I had the right of way, it's not worth it to me to compete for space with a car. One thing we know for sure is that 2 cars cannot occupy the same space. So somebody's got to give, and it might as well be you. And now we will pull over and park safely on the side of the road. Thank you for joining us for another learning experience. Keep coming back. Every video you watch is going to help you become a better driver. Thanks for doing this good work. See you next time.